Hello, this is Javin with AudioMediaProductionService.com. Today I'm going to go ahead and do a product review / overview on the Behringer X32 Compact digital console. I do want to start by saying that Midas did make the preamps and the internal software that's inside this console. I think there is a lot of misconception out there that I've read on the internet saying that Behringer bought Midas. I don't think that's 100% accurate from my own personal research. They started a company called the Music Group, where Behringer, Midas, Clark Technic, and Turbo Sound kind of joined forces a little bit and supply each other with certain products, and also have a repair facility in Las Vegas where they send all their products to get repaired in the USA. As far as durability goes on this board, I've had this board for about 2.5 years, and I haul it around in this cheap little roadie case that I bought for about $200. It's just felt lined on the inside, and it has one piece of foam. This board has taken a fall out of the back of my box truck, and it was about a 6-foot fall straight onto concrete, and to my amazement, the board still works. And that happened right before a gig, so I'm very thankful that it still works. So I think they kind of hit a home run on this board. I think an old Behringer product would have probably broken in pieces from a fall like that. So at the top of the board, we have the fat channel, and on every digital console, most of the time you would hit select for the channel you want to work on, and the fat channel will change accordingly. We're going to go to my vocal mic so we can adjust certain things and you can hear the change while I'm recording here. We have the config / preamp section, and there is a little view button by every section of the board. So if you want to see that section come up on the screen to get more in depth and change more parameters that they don't have on this fat channel, you can do that by hitting the view section. So I'm on the config / preamp section right now. You have the low cut button where you can engage it and disengage it. You have the frequency selector knob. It does go up to about 400 hertz. We have the gain knob, the polarity reverse switch, and then the phantom power. Below that, we have the gate section. So you can hit the view button to see it on the screen. We can engage the gate by this button, and I'll do that so you can hear it in my voice. And good for drum mics and stuff like that, not good for vocals. But just for demonstration's sake, I'll go ahead and put it on. Hey, check. Now you should hear me cutting in and out. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off because that sounds horrible on a vocal. Next to that, we have the compressor section. You can see that I have the compressor already in my voice right now. So you would engage it here and then disengage it. You can hit view to get more in depth with it, and then you have the threshold knob. Next to that, we have the equalizer section. Once again, you can hit view. We have 4 options for the EQ, 4 filters. We have the low mid, the high mid, and the highs. The highs and the lows can both be low shelf, low cut, 2 sets of notch filters, and same on the highs, high shelf, high cut, and 2 sets of notch filters. The notch filters do have adjustable Q knob, so you can narrow the band width or widen it. You can select the frequency you want to work on. And then you have the gain for that selected filter. You can change the filter type by the mode knob, and then you have the EQ engage button. To the right of the EQ section, we have the main left and right selection bus. You can hit view on that section. You can pan left or right with the knob. Above that, we have the mono bus. So if you want to do a subs on an aux type situation, you can do it there without having to use one of your buses. So you would select that. and then adjust the signal to the mono bus. Above that, we have a view button for the bus mixes for that selected channel. So you could see on the screen what outputs you are sending that particular channel to. Above that, we have the USB recorder, and this is what I'm recording my voice on right now. I am using a SM58 standard mic in most venues. To the left of that, we have the view on the phones, or the headphones, excuse me. We have the level for the headphones. We have a monitor level knob, so if you want to you could plug in near field monitors into the board, and that would be your volume knob for those. We have the talkback section. We got the talkback level. We have a talkback A button, which is not a latch, so you have to hold it down and then release to disengage it. We have the talkback B, which is a latch, so you can push that button in, and then you won't have to hold that button down. You would have to re-select it to disengage it. Moving on to the input section of the board. The compact is in layers of 8 channels. So channels 1 through 8 would be this button here. Channels 9 through 16, 17 through 24, channels 25 through 32, and then we have the aux input section. So really this board is a 40-channel board. On the compact, you only have 16 physical ins on the back of the board and 8 outputs. But to get all 32, you would have to buy the S16s and use the Cat5 and the digital snake to get all 32 channels and 16 outputs into the board. The next layer we have is the effects returns. Then we have the bus masters outs, and that was first one was bus master out 1 through 8. Then we have bus master 9 through 16 here. And one cool feature on the input section, and this is an update that Behringer added to the board. For this one, you can actually hit 2 of these inputs and get them across all 16 channels. So you can get another layer of 8 inputs on the output section over here. So by doing that, I would hit both of them at the same time. And now that I have channels 9 through 16 here and channels 17 through 24 here. To disengage it, just hit any of the layer buttons. This little middle section here, we have a DAW remote button. So you could control this. You could control any of your recording software with this board. I believe only the output section becomes a control surface for your DAW software like Pro Tools. Below that, we have a Sends on Fader button. This button is how you would get your signal to a monitor. So I would select the channel. You can do it 2 ways on the compact. You could select the channel, hit the Sends on Fader button, and then you got to hit the layer of outputs you want to send to. So now you can see that I'm sending this to a monitor bus 1 right now. And this is really good to do it this way. So if you're line checking a band in a live situation, say you always start with kick. So on this section, on the left-hand side, you can get your outputs sends over here, and you can keep your main fader for the audience on the left-hand side. And then there's another way you can do this. You can select the bus send and then see all the channels that are going to the bus, that particular monitor. When that's flashing, you are in the bus section. So if you want to get back to front of house, you just hit that button again, disengage it. Next we have the DCAs, and DCA stands for digitally controlled amplifier. These are just like VCAs in the analog world. What DCAs do, with this one fader, you can control a bunch of volumes of the selected channels that you want of your choosing. Is very great for drums when you have a bunch of mics, different types of mics on the drum set, and you want to control the whole drum set with one fader. Subgroups kind of do the same thing, but the thing with subgroups you can add processing to. DCAs you cannot add any processing or effects to. Next down we have the bus section, which we already saw on the input side. So we have bus 1 through 8, bus 9 through 16, and then we have our matrix section. So we have 6 matrices on this board, and this section is actually pretty cool because you can use your matrices as record outs, of course, like most matrices are, or you can use them as actually as your crossover. So they have Linkwitz-Riley filters in here, and they have Butterworth filters and a bunch of different types of crossover filters on just the EQ section of the matrices. So the way I set up my console, I don't have an external crossover for my system, so I actually use the board as my external crossover. So as you can see on the screen, I got a crossover for my high packs at, let's see, it says 143. That's not correct. I usually have it down at about 91. And then I can go over to I run subs on an aux, so that would go to the mono bus on this section, but I use the crossover filter on Matrix 3. So I got a crossover for my subs. And then these 3 matrices are on my setup are for record outs for video and whatnot. And then you have the mono bus master here. And then you have your left and right master. Moving to the right, we have the mute groups on this section of the board. To engage the mute groups and select them, you hit the mute group button up top near the screen, and then you would hold down and see which selected channels that you wanted to be muted. So if I disengage that button up there and I were to hit this button, you can see that the mutes are turning on and off for the ones that I selected. And you have 6 of those. Above that, we have the user defined section. This section of the board, you can pretty much make the board, those buttons do anything that you want on the board. So in my case, I have them as my graphic EQs to quickly get to the graphic EQs for my monitors. So I have graphic EQ 1 for monitor 1, graphic EQ 2 for monitor 2, EQ 3 for monitor 3, EQ 4 for monitor 4. And then I have a tap delay to tap my tempo of my delay effect. I have my front of house EQ. And if you want, for these graphic EQs, if you want to see them on your output section on the faders, you can do that. So I could go right here, you hit this GEQ on faders button up on the screen, select that, and now the faders on the output section become your graphic EQ. And now you can scroll through them. So if I was to change some of these, you can see that I'm actually changing my voice a little bit, but now you can see that they're scrolling around to those certain frequencies that I use. If I wanted to get that graphic EQ off, you just hit the button again on the user define, turn it off. I use a lot of different kinds of effects in this board. 2 of my favorite are the multi-band compressors. And I put these on my vocal subgroup and my front of house. That's all personal preference, but it's a tool that I like. And there's probably about 140 effects in this board that you can use. They have vintage EQs, vintage compressors. They have, the compressors, they got a Fairchild compressor in there. They have multi-band compression. They have delays, reverbs, flangers. A lot of things that you can, anything you can imagine pretty much. Pitch shifters. Above that, we have the scene section. This is where you would recall one of your band scenes, or if you're using this board as a recording, you can recall the scenes there too. So, and you can scroll through these screens. There's a snippets section. So if you want to just recall certain parts of the board, you could do that. Say like you wanted to have the monitor get louder on a certain song, you can save that volume in the board there, which is actually pretty handy, especially if you're doing it in a play type situation, and each set had a different setting for certain channels. You could easily recall those without affecting the whole entire board. That's pretty much the overview on the board, the quick overview. I will cut to, here in a minute, a video on the back section of the board. If you like the videos that I'm doing here and have any other ideas or comments, go ahead and leave a comment below. And please subscribe to my channel. Thanks. All right, as promised, I'm going to show you the back of the board. We have your inputs 1 through 8. We have inputs 9 through 16. Down below, we have AES-50 Cat5 ports. You got A and B, so you can run 2 Cat5s at the same time. You would need the digital stage boxes to do that. Next to that, we have personal monitoring. This is where you can plug in another Ethernet cable and get 16 channels to Behringer's P16 monitoring systems, which I think those boards run about $200. But then if you went this route, you wouldn't have to use any of these outputs on the board for monitors. They can all run through that, and I think you can daisy chain it as many as you want. Next to that, we have an AES-50/EBU out. We have your MIDI in and out. We got a remote control section where this is where you would plug in like a wireless router into the board, so you can run, an iPad or an iPhone to control the board or control the monitor section. Next to that, we have an expansion slot. What comes stock in the board is a FireWire expansion slot. Up top, you have your outputs 1 through 8. And above that, we have aux inputs 1 through 6 and aux outputs 1 through 6. The aux ins and outs, if you want to hook up some of your favorite external processing, you can do it through these. Over to the left of that, we have a monitor out. That's where you would hook up your near-field monitors right here. We have the talkback input, so you can plug in your talkback mic, and then next to that you have your lamp, so you can hook up a light into the console to light up the board. Below that, we have the power on and off. And that's about it. If you got any other questions, go ahead and put your comments down below, and I'd appreciate you if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you.